Hi, today I'm going to introduce you to Desmos activities. These activities are particularly great for math teachers to use because they can be utilized synchronously or asynchronously, and they help to make math education much more engaging and fun for students. But they also provide many opportunities for students to engage with each other's thinking. Teachers are also really easily able to track student progress, which is great for formative assessment. And then to log in, you will do so by clicking the Sign In button. Teachers can log in using either Google or by creating a Desmos account, both of which are free. You can connect Desmos with your Google Classroom. So if you utilize Google Classroom, I would recommend that you choose to sign in with Google. So once you're logged in, you'll have this home screen where Desmos has created a lot of pre-existing activities that you can utilize. I am going to go ahead and go to linear functions, since that's what my students are currently learning, and we can find an activity that they can use. We'll go to this one. So if I want to test out this pre-created activity, I can look down to the screens and click Student Preview. And this will allow me to see what students will see when they come to try this activity. So if I go ahead and look at the directions, it will tell me to click the Launch button. And this slide provides a scaffold. Usually Desmos provides some scaffolding just so students can get the idea of what they are doing during the activity, and they can try it out before it starts getting more complex. So then as we progress, students are manipulating the line's equation to try to reach the same result of hitting all the stars. So in this one, I can try making some changes to the line. And now after doing some manipulation, I should be able to meet the same goal. You'll notice down here at the bottom as well that there are some teacher moves that Desmos provides, as well as some sample responses that teachers can utilize to help them in supporting their students. Now I'll go down to one of the slides that are later in the activity, and now you can see that this activity is quite a bit more complicated because students have to create their own line, and in this activity they're actually going to have to create multiple lines to be able to achieve that result. So students are building on that learning as they progress through the activity so that they are able to do more and more complex tasks. So if you want to use this activity and assign it to one of your classrooms, you can do this by clicking this Assign button here. You can either assign it to your classes if you utilize Google Classroom, or you can create a single session code. And I just like to go ahead and create a code for each of my classes. Then when it's time for students in that class to use the activity, I can go ahead and show my dashboard. And this will pop up with both a code that students can type in to access the activity by going to student.desmos.com and typing in this code, or I like to copy this link and paste it to them so that they can easily just click the link and access this activity. Just like with teachers, students can log in either using a Desmos account or by signing in with Google. If you are using Google Classroom, then they will definitely need to sign in with Google, but either way, they will have free access to the website. I am going to go ahead and show one of the activities that I have used in my classroom with students. So this is a dashboard with real students. Similarly, if I click that View Dashboard button, then this brings me to my main hub for being able to see what students are doing and track their progress. I have this anonymize button on right now, which means that these are not my real students' names. Then from the teacher dashboard, I can track student progress by seeing which slides they have been on through these dots. So this student down here did not make it very far. And then for certain slides, if there's a correct or incorrect answer, then I can see how my students did by looking at either the check marks, which means that they solved the problem correctly, or an X, which means that they did not solve the problem correctly. I can click on a specific slide, so I'll click on this one here, and this will allow me to see all of the student work for this slide. And you can also look at an overlay to be able to see all of that student data at once. I find this particularly helpful when I use checks for understanding, like this one. I can look at the overlay and see how my students did with understanding the math and how they felt about learning today. We were kind of a bit all over the place on this lesson. So now I want to show you how to create your own activity that you can use by customizing existing Desmos activities. So if you go to teacher.desmos.com, and then you click Custom, this is where you can create your own custom activities, and this is where you will be able to access all of those. I'm just going to call this one my test, and I'll create a new activity. All right, so in order to get started, I like to use some of the pre-made Desmos activities and slides. So if I go back to teacher.desmos.com, they have a lot of these great starter screens that you can utilize. So I often use the ones for checking in. Here is one with a little robot that you can use to say how you're feeling. And I can click on this screen to see the preview. So if I decide that this is a screen that I want to utilize as one of my slides, I can click this button up here in the top left that says copy this screen, and it will automatically save this slide for me. Then when I return to my activity builder, which is where I'm building my new activity from, I can do Control V or Command V if you're on a Mac, and that will just paste that slide right here into my activity. So I can use this pre-made slide in my activity, and I can either leave this the way it is, or I can make my own changes to it. For example, I could change this to say, tell me more. And now you can see that the text here changed. So let's go ahead and add our own custom slide. I'm going to click the plus sign, and then I can let's add a sketch where students can draw, and I'm going to make the background an editable graph. And I want students to draw a line with a slope of 2. So I'm just adding some directions up here. Now when I preview this slide, it will tell students to draw a line with a slope of 2, and they can use these built-in draw tools to draw that line for me. There are also a lot of other great built-in screens that you can utilize from Desmos. I'm going to go back to those starter screens. And let's get some data on our classroom. So let's say we want to know where students were born. I can click on this screen and I will copy that screen into my activity builder. I'll make a new slide and then paste this here using my Control V or Command V. And then you'll notice that when I move this dot to show where I'm from, if I move it off the map, this adds a text box where students can type. And it asks, where were you born? So maybe I want to change those directions. To do so, I can go into the Edit Computation Layer screen, and this is where you can add scripts to really customize Desmos and bring out some of those more complex features. So maybe I want to change this script instead to say, name the city and country where you were born. So these tips should help you with the basics of utilizing existing Desmos activities and modifying them to create your own. Then once you finish your activity, you can click Publish and create class codes or assign the activity in Google Classroom. And that Publish button is right up here. If you want to learn more of the features for using Desmos, I would recommend that you go into their support website here at learn.desmos.com to view instructions that Desmos has provided to get you started. They have quite a few different options here, and down at the bottom is where they explain some information about the activities. Additionally, when I find activities that have features that I want to use, particularly ones that utilize that computation layer, I'll often copy those slides into the activity builder that I'm working from, and then I can see what that person did to achieve those results, and I can try to manipulate what they have in order to get my activity to do what I want. And if you're interested in using more of the features for that computation layer to customize Desmos and use some of those more complex features, then I would recommend that you check this hashtag on Twitter called MatchMyCL, where other educators will share their Desmos activities and some of their codes so that you can see how they have been able to customize their Desmos. And I hope that this was informative for you and that you have fun bringing Desmos into your classrooms. Thank you.